This week, back-to-back press events at the Capitol over the contentious issue of religious freedom legislation. So far, no sign of middle ground between those for and those against. Also, do students who take certain science and math subjects deserve a bigger piece of the Hope Scholarship pie? The Georgia House thinks so. Lawmakers starts right now. Welcome to coverage of Day 16 of the 2016 session of the General Assembly. I'm Bill Nigut. We have a lot to talk about tonight, but before we get to our guests in the studio, let's get an update on today's House and Senate action. Shelby Lin is at the Capitol. Shelby?
We begin tonight, Bill, with the latest on a measure that would prevent any person from forcing a minister to perform a same-sex marriage. The Pastor Protection Act had its first hearing late today before a House Judiciary Subcommittee.
As we know, the U.S. Supreme Court changed the country's legal definition of marriage last summer. Whether we agree with the decision or not, it is now the law that we live under. What we seek to do through this bill is to reassure the faith community, particularly members of the clergy, that the state government has no intention of requiring ministers, priests, or other clergy to violate their faith by performing marriage ceremonies.
The bill was introduced by Representative Kevin Tanner of Dawsonville, and it has the support of House Speaker David Ralston. But opponents say they believe the First Amendment already covers those rights. There's also a provision in the bill about housing, which has caused some concern.
Our research has indicated that in other states where there are similar laws to this one, the language has been limited to religious weddings only. I do hope that as the committee will look at this issue, you will choose to amend the language appropriately.
The bill was passed on to the full committee with minor changes. Speaker Ralston has said he's open to amendments that refine the intent of the bill. There's a major backlog in the testing of rape kits across the country and right here in Georgia. Some 1,500 kits in Atlanta alone remain untested, with an unknown number in the state as a whole. That's why Atlanta Democrat Representative Scott Holcomb introduced the Pursuing Justice for Rape Victims Act.
So the legislation is designed to fix the problem by putting into law requirements for the rape kits to be processed and ultimately to be turned over to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
Currently, hospitals are not required to notify authorities when they receive sexual assault kits, and local police agencies are not required to deliver rape kits they collect to the GBI. That would change under Holcomb's bill.
There has been some confusion as to whose responsibility it is to take the kits. There's resource issues, and then there's also been an informal protocol that existed before where the Georgia Bureau of Investigation would not accept kits unless there was a suspect.
Holcomb says that protocol is troubling because the results of a rape kit can be used to identify a suspect, and that's not happening when the kits go untested.
But the bottom line is we need to have a statutory system that requires the timely, efficient processing of these rape kits.
Holcomb says he became aware of a great need to get rape kits tested in Georgia and that there was no system in place for moving the cases forward.
My background includes time as a prosecutor, where I tried rape cases, I tried sexual assault cases, and they're very difficult cases, and they have an extreme impact on the victims.
The Pursuing Justice for Rape Victims Act came up before a House Judiciary Subcommittee today and is expected to pass on to the full House Judiciary Committee. Meanwhile, over in the House, the Reverend Creflo Dollar of Atlanta was the chaplain of the day, where he asked God to bless Georgia and its leaders.
Righteous leaders are a gift from the Lord. And when the state leaves the church to do its work in peace, it is because God has gifted us with government leaders who wisely understand their place in the world.
His appearance at the Capitol comes after a recent resolution in the Senate to rename part of Old National Highway to Creflo Dollar Highway. There is support for the idea in both chambers, although there is also opposition in the community.
I'm so excited.
That resolution in the Senate was authored by Atlanta Senator Donzella James, who also introduced the Senate chaplain of the day, the Reverend Taffy Dollar, wife of Pastor Dollar. It's the only time in recent history a husband and wife team have preached in both chambers. Both the House and the Senate passed resolutions honoring their church, World Changers, as a congregation celebrates its 30th anniversary this weekend. Also today, it was Nurses Day at the Capitol. Georgia nurses and nursing students converged on the Gold Dome to discuss their 2016 legislative priorities, including the shortage of nurses around the state and workplace safety. And finally tonight, a sword fight in the Capitol. Actually, these are members of the Georgia High School Fencing League, and they weren't trying to take a stab at lawmakers. They were promoting fencing and trying to convince legislators that fencing should be an official high school sport and not just a club. 20 schools and their fencing teams took part in the event today at the Capitol. And by the way, Georgia's fencing league, it's the third largest in the U.S. That's it from the...
We have so much to talk about tonight. We'll talk about RFRA. We'll talk about the Hope Scholarship tweaks. Maybe we'll get to MARTA expansion. And our guests tonight have a couple of bills that they are very interested in discussing as well. They are Senator Elena Parent, a Democrat from Atlanta, and Representative Jesse Petrea, a Republican from Savannah. Thank you both so much for being here. I want to start, if we can, because yesterday, or day before yesterday, was the Pastors' Day at the Capitol, and you had a lot of people coming down rallying for or against the religious freedom bills that are on the agenda in both the Senate and the House. It's my understanding that we've got, I think, at least 7 different, maybe 8 by now, religious freedom bills. And obviously, there's a lot of talk about all of them. Let me start with you, if I can, Senator Parent. Your body passed, I want to start with the Senate, because last year, the Senate did pass Josh McCoon's SB 129, which is the big religious freedom bill. Did it with Republicans, not Democrats. It got to the House last year, and it went nowhere.
Right.
You, I assume, are glad that that bill didn't go anywhere. Democrats didn't like this legislation.
That's right. I was vocally opposed to the RFRA legislation last year on the floor of the Senate. And, around, of course, the time right after as we were discussing it, the Indiana situation exploded into the national consciousness. And since then, we've heard a lot about the economic damage caused by RFRA, and have seen studies that would show about a $2 billion negative impact to our own economy in Georgia if we were perceived to be sanctioning any type of discrimination.
Representative Petrea, last year in the 40th day, the 11th hour, the House could not take action on it. It was held back for a variety of reasons.
Sure.
Are you hopeful that this year, at least SB 129 gets a fair hearing in the House? Where do you stand on that?
Well, I absolutely am supportive of the RFRA bill. And in fact, I would emphasize, and I know you've heard it before, but remember, this is the same exact language that was sponsored by Teddy Kennedy federally, the lion of liberalism, and was signed by Bill Clinton into law federally. Supreme Court has ruled that states must have their own laws to protect people against overreach by state governments into their religious freedom.
Right, the federal law did not apply to states.
That is correct. So for that reason, it's interesting to me that this bill has become the firestorm that it has. There's a lot of misinformation out there. This bill absolutely only restrains government from overreach into the religious liberties of our citizens.
When you hear this argument that this mirrors federal legislation that Democrats in the Clinton administration did support, it sounds, why fight it?
Right. Circumstances have changed quite significantly since I think it was around 1994 when that legislation was initially passed. And it did arise from this notion that some Native American minority religious sects using what would otherwise be a illegal controlled substance in their religious acts and devotions. And so a lot of groups that originally viewed RFRA as a shield against sort of like an overbearing government did support that. But fast forward, 22 years, and now we've got the consciousness really focused on the legalization of same-sex marriage. And a lot of the organizations that supported the federal RFRA back then saw it began to be used as a sword against sanctioning same-sex marriage or having to engage in it.
Let me speak to that, Bill. I'd like to answer your question. I didn't answer you directly, and I'd like to do so. First of all, let me say to the point that the senator just made, we've got over 20 years of case law now for this same exact language federally. Not one example has RFRA ever been used to discriminate against anybody. Not one example in case law. And so I think that, again, but having said that, I respect everybody's opinion. But to answer your question about where we're going, I am pleased with the leadership. You know, I'm a freshman here. And one of the things I've been pleased by is that we don't rush into these things. Even though I mentioned I support RFRA, I really admire the leadership in the House for slowing this down, for making sure that we consider all the facts and everybody's opinion, and that we take this very carefully. And as you pointed out, we have multiple bills now. We're very pleased with the Pastor Protection Act that the Speaker has offered. I'm a big supporter of that bill.
Which would quite simply do nothing more than say that it is perfectly legal for a religious a leader, a minister, a rabbi, or whatever, to not perform a gay marriage if it were against her or his principles.
Absolutely. And that is has bipartisan support. Indeed, we have a RFRA bill now that's got with a Democratic sponsor. So I think that my hope is that we'll all come together. In my district, in particular, RFRA is extremely popular, and so I support it. Having said that, I hope that we all, we got 180 people that leadership has to help lead towards solutions for good public policy. I think we're going to get there.
Okay, so Senator McCoon has argued from the very beginning, 2 years ago, that his bill was not intended to discriminate against gays and lesbians. There are now bills floating through the building, which in fact very specifically do have the potential. They are aimed at how merchants, business people would in fact have the right to not deal with the gay and lesbian community. In other words, there are more frontal approaches to this. Am I interpreting that right? Do you think?
Right. No, there have been subsequent legislation filed that were a little bit more direct. But I will say that, it was never in doubt, as some of these RFRA bills have been discussed in states around the country, that organizations that were vocally opposed to same-sex marriage were the ones who really wanted this measure. And as you know, in the House Committee and Judiciary, when the non-discrimination language was added, that's when the proponents moved to table the legislation.
They wanted the bill tabled.
And I know they have their reason for saying that, but it would seem to the average person that if it's not about discrimination, why not add the non-discrimination language?
I'm going to give you the last word because we have to move on. Do you support it? And is the Pastor Protection Act, and maybe if your Judiciary Chair, Wendell Willard, will allow it to be heard on the floor, are those the bills you're prepared to support, as opposed to some of the bills that do seem a little bit more specifically aimed at the gay and lesbian community?
And I'm not as familiar with those bills because they're new, and I haven't, we've got over 800 bills right now, and so I haven't been able to study those in particular. But yes, I would say that I'm absolutely supportive of that. And I think leadership wants to get us to where we all can come to agree. There's not a lot of divisiveness in the House, and I'm a freshman. I've been pleased with that. We get along so well, and I hope that we can all come together.
We will obviously watch this move forward. It's going to continue to be one more session, third session in a row, a big, big issue for all of you to deal with and for us to talk about. Let's move to another subject. Just yesterday, the House passed a bill which would give some slight preference in terms of Hope scholarships to students who are have academics focused on math and science. And it passed by a big margin in your body yesterday.
Unanimous bill, and one of the best bills I've seen since I've been up here, sponsored by our Speaker, Jan Jones, and a tremendous bill.
Your leader.
I'm our House, yes.
Don't give her a promotion
Speaker
yet.
Pro Tem, I apologize, our Speaker Pro Tem, Jan Jones, and a bill that really encourages us to encourage our children to take those courses that really will lead them to successful careers.
Is this
what we've got?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. We've got a disincentive today where kids that want to retain hope are discouraged from taking some of the more rigorous coursework because they fear losing hope, a very legitimate concern. We need to make sure that we don't have those disincentives. So this bill, which gives them an additional half-point credit for those rigorous academic courses, I think is a great step forward and was strongly endorsed by
Headed across the building to you, Senator. Can you imagine that your body isn't going to give bipartisan support to this?
I think it will. I think we all know that the fields in which STEM, education, science, technology, engineering, and math, those jobs, those sectors of our economy are growing. What the representative said is true. The courses are more rigorous. Grading can tend to be a little bit more harsh. It's my understanding that summa cum laude, for example, requires a lower GPA at Georgia Tech than it does at University of Georgia, for example, sort of for that very reason. And that, if students are going to lose hope, that threatens, in many cases, their ability to go to college.
Well,
so we don't want that.
For all of us literature majors, we're a little worried that you're not giving us due credit for the rigor of our academic past.
I was a psychology major, so I am with you. But
let me say, it's interesting you mentioned psychology majors. I learned from our Speaker Pro Tem the other night, speaking to her about this bill, that we produce in Georgia every year more psychology degrees than we have psychologists working in this state at any given time. So this bill was about encouraging our kids to go into fields that are in demand. And right now, those careers are STEM fields. And that's what this is all about.
Let me turn to one other quick issue before our break. MARTA expansion.
Yes.
You're a Metro
I am.
Legislator. The legislature is going to be asked to look at allowing local jurisdictions to add as much as a half-penny sales tax for an expansion of heavy rail north in the northern corridor particularly, but also I think there's an expansion plan beyond that.
There is, and some of it could be light rail or bus rapid transit.
People are already saying this is a tough
heavy lift
measure. What do you think?
They are saying that. There's certainly opposition from some folks, especially those that represent kind of the North Fulton, DeKalb area. And, I too share some of the belief that I believe this is a regional asset. I do believe that the state should be supporting it, and that asking our own constituents to continually dig into our own pockets when it benefits truly the region, and I would even argue the state to a certain extent, if people are coming in for ball games or the like, tourism, this is something the state should also be supporting. However, I am supportive of we can't afford to lose decades and years more to inaction, and all the studies show how much of an economic boom it would be.
Representative Petrea, you all were pushed hard last year to support the $170 million transportation package, which will call for a tax increase. It was a particularly tough vote for an awful lot of Republicans.
The transportation bill, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. When MARTA comes along and says we need more money, is that a hard ask at this point?
Well, yeah. I mean, that bill included about $75 million in bonds for transit, and obviously this is a bigger issue here than it is in Savannah, where particularly the district I represent in Savannah. But I think it is. I think we've made a huge commitment to transportation and to transit as well. And I think that what the people want, what I hear from people back home, they want to know that if we're investing in these projects, that they really improve traffic and congestion, and they want to see that they're utilized. Okay. And we have a transit system in Savannah, and I get a lot of comment. There's been conversations about expanding that into other parts of our county.
Sure.
People in my district are adamantly opposed to that.
Okay, let's do this. We're going to take a break. I know you both have some issues that you'd really like to get at least a couple minutes in on, and we'll take those on. I also, if you don't mind, I think it'd be interesting to just get a couple words from you on the post-Iowa political landscape as the presidential campaign heads slowly but inexorably to Georgia. We'll talk about all that in just a few minutes. But before we get to that, you think you know your lawmaker? Well, let's see. Brad Raffensperger is a Republican representing House District 50. He was first sworn into the General Assembly in 2015. He's an engineer, and he's worked on 4 nuclear power plants and several hydroelectric dam projects. It's a good thing the General Assembly put him on the Energy Committee. He played basketball, volleyball, and football in high school, and he wants to see the Denver Broncos win Super Bowl 50. Raffensperger says he'd love to visit Palouse, Washington. His wife is a photographer, and he knows she wants to shoot the beautiful grassy hills there. We're back with more Lawmakers in a moment.
A lot can happen in a day. So when you're ready to know more than just what's happening, we'll bring you the voices who can tell you why.
This is All Things Considered.
Listen every afternoon.
From 4 to 7 on GPB Radio.
We take our mission as public radio journalists very, very seriously, and we bring it to you in the most comprehensive, understandable, and the most accurate way that we know how. Join us weekday mornings at 9 a.m. for On Second Thought.
Do you have Apple TV? Check out this exciting new way to access all your favorite content from GPB and PBS. It's GPB Now. Download the app and easily browse local and national shows, special series, sports, and more, all on demand and just a click away. Plus, stream live events like the high school championships and GPB Radio exclusive to GPB.
Second Thought from GPB News.
If you're cutting the cable, stay connected with GPB Now. Free to download in the Apple TV App Store today.
Did you know that on this date, February 4th, 1861, Georgia sent delegates to the Alabama state capitol in Montgomery? They joined delegates from Alabama, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, and South Carolina to form the Confederate States of America. Howell Cobb, a former Georgia governor, was elected convention president. Welcome back to Lawmakers. I'm Bill Nigut. I'm here this evening with Senator Elena Parent and Representative Jesse Petrea. Thanks again for both being here tonight. Let's give you both a chance. You've both got legislation you really want to try to get past this session. Let's start very briefly with you, Representative Petrea.
Well, thanks, Bill. I've got a couple of bills, but I'll mention one in particular that I think you're interested in is a bill on pardons and paroles notification. We've had some real issues in Savannah recently with individuals that were almost released without the notified parties being aware. And so you have a situation right now in the statute only requires 72 hours before the release of an individual, a parolee.
And what does the existing statute say about who needs to be notified?
The sheriff, the judge, the DA, and the victim. Now, the victim is, the statute requires 20 days notice to the victim. But to the others, there's no advance notice required, and there's only 72 hours required. So what my bill does is require 30-day advance notice before any parolee is released back into the community or moved to a transition.
You said you've had some situations in Savannah that have led to this. What does that mean? Give us an example of what you've dealt with.
We've had some high-profile individuals who committed heinous crimes in Savannah who have been considered for parole, and in that last attempt for the DA's office to respond as to their to make their wishes known about this parole, they have not had adequate time to gather data to respond. Remember, many of these individuals committed crimes 20, 30 years ago, so this data is all boxed up and in a storage unit. And so there's simply not adequate time. Now, I will tell you this is really important. We have been working with Chairman Terry Barnard, who is a fine man, the chair of the Board of Pardons and Paroles, and he has been enormously helpful. And we are coming together, we're working with the DAs, and we hope that we're going to solve this without, perhaps we can solve it without a bill. You know, we pass a lot of bills up here. If we can solve problems without a bill, that's even better.
So
we're working on that.
Is the prosecuting attorney's council on board with this, or they're saying we'd like to figure out a way to satisfy you? It may not be legislation.
Yeah, the DAs are absolutely on board with my bill, but we have all agreed to work with the Board of Pardons and Paroles to try to come to a procedural solution. And it may be that we still need a bill. We're working on that. In fact, there was a meeting today on that. And so there's a lot of work going into this, and everybody has been very attuned to it and very helpful on both sides. We all, you know, at the end of the day, here's what you have. Parole is clemency. No one has a right, no one has earned parole. So, you know, you're convicted by a jury of your peers to serve a period of time, and if we parole someone early, it's clemency.
Well, you are paroled on the basis of behavior and that sort of thing. I mean, you, to an extent, have earned it, haven't you?
To an extent, I guess so. But so we want to know that before an individual is paroled back into the community that may have committed heinous crimes, like the examples I gave, that the community is aware of it. I'm all about transparency with our parole board, and that ultimately is what this is about, transparency.
And you're gonna make this happen? Much pushback?
We're going to solve the problem. There's not. Everybody wants to find a solution.
Okay. Great. Senator Parent, you've actually got a couple gun bills. You know, the minute somebody says they got gun bills, everybody else goes, whoa. but you think,
bills,
yeah, but
Bill,
you think that there
Just
might
like
be
the
bipartisan.
representatives.
But you think there might be bipartisan support.
Well,
for
I'm
your
certainly, of course, working toward that, and we are trying to get some constructive input from Georgia Kerry, for example, on one of the bills, which would provide. Right now, Georgia pulls back after 5 years. Names no longer submits names to the National Criminal Instant Check database of persons who have been involuntarily committed after 5 years.
To mental hospitals.
Correct. If you've been involuntarily committed, you are not legally permitted to acquire weapons. But Georgia, after 5 years, with no further inquiry, simply no longer submits those names. So even as we're sending 2,000 names more a year, we've got 500 or so that just simply fall off. So it puts us in the conundrum where those persons are not legally entitled to obtain a firearm, but there's no evidence in the background check system that they are
because
no
they're
longer
voluntary, and you would correct that problem. And then you've got a bill about locks and the issuance of locks, right?
That's right. You know, we've got a lot of accidental deaths and shootings. In many cases with minors. In Georgia, there have been several high-profile examples in the last months, and around the country we have about 5 or 6 a week. And so this legislation would simply provide that when a firearm is sold, the retailer would provide a safety lock with the weapon, with the intent, of course, to raise awareness.
No mandate that the buyer has to use the lock.
That's correct, Bill. No mandate that they have to use it, but hopefully would raise awareness and encourage persons to use them and cut down on accidental shootings.
So, Representative Petrea, do you think, just look Senator Parent in the eye, is any gun measure that seems even vaguely to change existing law likely to get very far in the General Assembly from your point of view?
Here's what I would say. Again, I can't speak with, I'm a new guy.
Yeah, you don't know her measures.
But here's what I don't know those measures, but here's what I'd say. We have a very pro-gun legislature because we have a very pro-gun state. The people of Georgia believe in the right to keep and bear arms. And so I think any bill that seems to detract from the ability of free people to keep and bear arms is going to have it.
And you would argue that neither of your measures does that, right?
I would certainly, no, I think that they are just simply common sense safety measures. In fact, because we value the right to keep and bear arms, what we need to be talking about, and that's not going to change, nor should it, what we need to be talking about is simply some of the effects of widespread ownership of deadly weapons is all, making it safer.
I love how carefully we all watch our language when the issue of guns comes up. Let me turn to one other subject. Representative Petrea, you said before we went on the air, you have quietly, a while back, thrown your support to Marco Rubio. He had a great night in Iowa on Monday.
Yeah,
Are you encouraged by what might happen down here?
I am. Here's my situation. Again, I haven't been real public about it. I believe that Marco Rubio is our candidate who can win. And what I want, when we look at the number of Supreme Court justices that are going to be appointed in the next term under our next president, we need a good, solid conservative president.
So you think?
And I believe Rubio can win.
I've got about 20 seconds. You're a Hillary supporter.
I'm a Hillary supporter.
Did you worry at all about what you saw with Bernie Sanders on Monday night?
My expectation is still that she's the one who's going to be able to go the distance throughout all the states. Iowa's sort of a unique state and not representative necessarily of the viewpoint.
All right. Well, listen, thank you both for a really engaging conversation tonight. I appreciate your both being here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having us.
Enjoyed it.
That does it for day 16 of the 2016 session. We have 24 legislative days to go. No session scheduled for tomorrow, so we'll see you back here again on Monday for day 17. And then we'll be watching the New Hampshire primary the next day on Tuesday. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GPB News, or go to our website, gpb.org/lawmakers. We've got information there. And if you want, listen to Political Rewind Wednesdays and Fridays on GPB Radio. Bye.